I'm Amanda Joyce.
And I'm Devin Hayes, and today's topic is 7 common pricing mistakes that are crippling your business. And here's why you should care. If the title wasn't obvious enough, these pricing mistakes are hindering you from growing your business and are definitely impacting your bottom line.
So to go over these, we're joined today by Randy Stanbury of 4-Level Coaching. So let's dive in.
Welcome to Trade Secrets, where we demystify digital marketing to help contractors get the most bang for their marketing bucks.
This is for you if you're a contractor looking for actionable marketing insights.
Learn from home services industry experts to elevate your business through simplified marketing strategies.
Let's dive into today's trade secret.
Hi, everyone. We're really excited to welcome Randy Stanbury from 4-Level Coaching.
Everybody.
Welcome. Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you on.
Awesome. Let's do this. Let's have some fun today. Get into some good content too.
Absolutely. So before we hop in and really dive in on some of these 7 pricing mistakes that we want all of our contractors to avoid making, we figured we'd have a little bit of background on you, Randy, and kind of where you cut your teeth in business and how you came to be a coach for the trades, for people in trades in general.
So I started in well, let me go back even further than when I started. I knew there was something wrong with working for someone else, and I couldn't see myself long-term doing that. So when I was 23, I had an idea to start a logistics business. And so I spent the next year and a half educating, and which I think, a lot of entrepreneurs miss is we jump into something because we're good at what we do, but we miss the business side. So for whatever reason, I just felt like I needed to understand the business side. You guys familiar with this one?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Right. And that's what we see all the time. And what we help people do today is we don't help them necessarily with what they do in the field, right? What they do in the field, they know. That's that part. They got that down. We say that's the what. The what. We help you with the how, right? So the business side of it. But regardless, I started in 93 to just start educating and figuring out what I needed to learn. It was about a year and a half process. Started in 95. By 98, I realized that or let's say I knew enough to know that I didn't know nearly enough. And that's when I went and got a business coach myself. Actually, I just took a phone call and received the call in and said yes to go out and meet this guy. And really it like life changed from that moment when I really just started to see that there was a whole lot more that I didn't know. And I found these blind spots that we often talk about, right?
So did a business coach cold call you and find you?
Cold call,
That's kind of incredible.
I mean, maybe in 98, that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
They don't do that as much today, I'm
and
sure.
You were like,
but
what, 26 when this was
at the time I was 28 when I took that call, and it was just kind of like, I wasn't really sure, went and investigated, but it like everything changed. The doors opened up, the world opened up. And really I was sitting in rooms with mostly that people that were 10, 15 years older. So there was a lot to learn from and experience rooms that I was in. Anyway, regardless, fast forward to 2007. In that time, I'd figured out that I wanted to get myself removed from the business entirely. And so I was able to remove myself by 2007, put a president in place, vice president, had all the management layers in place. And at that point, went and started another business. And lots of times we talk about freedom and getting freedom in our business. For me, is not about going to lie on a beach, but go and take the next challenge. Because if we're truly entrepreneurial, for most of us, there's something else inside of us that's niggling all the time that we can't avoid. And we want to get there, but we're so sucked up in our own business that we can't seem to get free from it. So whatever it was, I figured out how to get free from it. The next 10 years till 2017, I never worked one day in that core business, went and built another business, actually built two at that point in time, because I immediately got freed from the second one. It was all, and what I realized is that what I pulled off was extremely difficult to do. And I'd figured something out that most haven't been able to figure out. So now I just took that. And over these years, by the way, I think before the podcast, we chatted a little bit about, since then, I've always had at least one, if not two and three different business coaches that I've worked with and still do. That it's just commonplace for me today. Every professional athlete, whether they've hit peak or not, there's always another level, right? Yeah. So we're always looking for that next edge. I've just been doing that all my life. So as an entrepreneur, a lifelong learner, just continuing to up the game and look at the next level. And that's what we share today. So I created this program back in 2019. I sold my core business, by the way, in 2017. After not being there for 10 years, it was very sellable because I wasn't part of it. I wasn't the value in the business anymore, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, it was extremely sellable, high level, you know, multiple on my EBITDA, which is how they will look at, you know, if anyone's out there thinking about selling, they're going to be looking at you and the value and what value you bring to that business. The less value you bring, the more valuable the business is. Right. Yeah. And so that's what we teach and help guys do today, is really get themselves freed up, whether they want to go lie on a beach or whether they want to go start something else or get freed up so that they can start working on the business and not in it. Right. So anyway, that's the story in a nutshell.
Awesome.
Now, it's a beautiful path. Yeah.
And how do I got into, because I know you wanted to touch on this. So I transitioned from logistics. I did start a renovation business during that time. I've always loved this business myself. And now I'm part of 7 other businesses across the country where we have ownership stake in businesses that we have developed since from 2019. And at this point, it's just what we do, and that's all we know, and that's all we're focused on. So I love it. It's one of these things where I believe that every one of your listeners has a winning lottery ticket in their pocket. They just don't realize it and don't know the formula to cash it in yet. So, you know, what you guys do and what you're sharing and the content you share, if you're listening close enough, then this is the formula. Everything that you guys are talking about is the formula to cash in that ticket to me.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can share some good content today to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and so for, you know, those listening, we tons of like contractors and folks in the trades, is that, would you say like primarily, do you have, like, I know you mentioned like renovation and remodeling companies, would you say you kind of have contractors across the board in all different trades and kind of verticals?
Yeah. And see, every one of the builders and remodelers that we work with deal with mostly subs, right? And they're all trades. And so therefore, everything that we do relates to and focuses with the trades as well, because to me, we have to create one ecosystem job sites. And one ecosystem job sites mean that we're all more effective, efficient, and profitable together. Where if we miss that link, everyone in the chain just does not succeed as well as they could. And so to me, this is not for each their own. It's a game we must play together if we're going to be extremely profitable together. So yes, 100%, everything we do relates to and focuses with the trades.
I love it. That's a beautiful thing, because I think having someone experience like in your niche, we like kind of experimented with a business coach who was so far outside our niche that, like, while some basic principles are there, ultimately having someone like who's really niched down and really understands your business is ultimately like kind of part of what I think makes a good working relationship with a business coach and makes it successful, because the more you put in and the more they put in, obviously the more both of you get out of it. But when you're teaching your coach about your business at the same time, you're like, I'm paying to teach you about, this isn't working, this isn't great. So I love that. I love that you're niched down and really know and understand our listeners' pain points. So that's a beautiful thing. Let's dive into this.
I do want to point out real quick before we move on. I just wanted to point out that for those that are interested in just hearing more of Randy's brilliance, we'll touch on this towards the end as well, but he does also host his own podcast that really continues to share this kind of information as well. So it's
really,
called
really great podcast.
The Building Freedom podcast. We'll touch on it again towards the end, but just if you're leaning in and wanting to know how you can get more out of Randy, that's a really quick way to go start kind of educating yourself around all of the great things that he and his team have to offer.
Awesome.
Yeah, we'll link to it in the episode notes for sure. So, all right. So today's topic, we're going to dive in 7 common pricing mistakes that contractors make. Randy, this is your brilliance here. What's number 1?
Number 1 is that we are pricing with a markup, utilizing a markup without understanding and knowing our overheads. So our overhead expenses to our business. And here's the thing, 96 to 98% of small business, and I believe contractors, tradespeople, renovators, subs are on the higher end of that percentage. So we're talking 98. And how do we know that? Well, 1, it's a fact, right? But 2 is we see it every day. And literally we see 98% of the people that we see don't look at financials on a regular basis. And if they are looking at them, they don't fully understand them and know what they mean to their business and how to make good business decisions from them. And so therefore, we're throwing out numbers on our pricing without really knowing the effect they will have on our bottom line and what they're going to do to help our business grow. And that is first and foremost. And the number 1 thing, what we talk about is profit before growth. Because I think far too often we're trying to get to the next level. We're trying to grow our business. We want to add more revenue, but it's all leaking out the back end because we don't have a tight system to be able to be profitable. And if we don't have profit, then what the hell are we doing trying to grow the business yet? Right? We're just creating more chaos and frustration along the way and not making the right money to grow the teams. Right. So,
absolutely.
So that's a big pricing mistake. Your clients that you work with, what do you see from, and I don't know if you get into their financials at all or ask those questions, but do you see any of that? Like, what's your thought?
So we don't get into that side of it. We definitely have conversations around the ROI on the leads that come in from the services we provide to kind of try and help them track like the value of what we're providing.
100%.
But what I like what you said in there, you said 98% of the time, that this is an issue. That's another, just another testament to why you would work with like a niche down business coach who has the experience across and is like, every time I work with a contractor, I see this, let's start here. It's like another great reason to go with someone who's like, fair, because you've seen it across the board. So yes, we want to prove the value of what the services are that we provide to them, but we don't
which
really
is your ROI though. And so you're hitting ROI, the return on that investment. And it's so, and here's the thing, I believe
but we are part of their overhead. So so it kind of ties together.
But here's the thing though, you guys are bringing this service, you're helping them get leads, you're helping them get to that next level. But if they are doing that and not being profitable on the business that's coming in, there's this total disconnect that's happening in the back end that they don't fully understand. And this is just part of, I'm just bringing the 7 common mistakes, right? So at the end of the day, when we're making this mistake in our business, it's what I hope guys that are listening, pull over in your trucks, get a pen, write this stuff down, listen to this when you get back home, because most of us are listening in our vehicles when we're, job to job, right?
Yeah.
Which is fantastic. But guys, these 7 here, if you can change these 7, you'll change your entire business, period. Right. And now it takes something to do that, but understand that this is the stuff that's really holding you back and keeping you stuck on your hamster wheel. Right. It really is.
Yeah.
Because without getting profitable, we are unable to build the teams that we need to build to free us up to take our business to the next level. Therefore, we hit ceilings. We are stuck on the hamster wheel. We're frustrated, overwhelmed, and can't find out how to get past it. Right. So that's a huge one. Number 1.
That's a strong number 1. All right. Who has to follow? Who has to follow that one?
All right. So number 2 to me is we're misallocating the expenses we have in our profit and loss or our P&L. right? So in our profit and loss, our income statement, our P&L, they're all the same. They're called different things. Misallocating those expenses. So our cost of goods and our overhead expenses. When we misallocate them, we're not being able to extract the data we need from those numbers. It's like, you know, what your numbers, if your numbers are not understood to the client of what your numbers are telling them, then there's a whole disconnect on your success of helping them get to that next level with what you do, right? So
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
misallocating is a huge mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And when you're working with folks, do you guys actually kind of get in there and help them identify that? Or is that something you kind of like lean them towards just you need to go check it out with your bookkeeper? Or do you guys actually get in and like weed through it and help them identify?
I love that you asked that question because, you know, I would say when we first started, I don't think I realized how big of an issue this was. But we've just created a 4-week program that's strictly for anytime you want to start working with us in any capacity, we have to go through this first 4 weeks. And this first 4 weeks is going to uncover all of these things that we're talking about here, financials, pricing. We want to see estimates. We want to see how we're getting to those numbers, the rough work. Because again, profit before growth. If we're going to help you grow your business, we got to get profitable first. Let's focus on it. So the 4 weeks is all about, you know, basically peeling back the onion, getting into the core of the business and seeing where we call it the cracks are, because, you know, every one of our businesses is what we see all the time is minimum $50,000 leaking in the business of cash in areas that is mind blowing. And when you get up to $1 million, 2 million plus, we're talking easily 150,000. And we see it all the time. So that's frightening. And then we wonder why we can't seem to build our teams or take our business to the next level. It's right in these mistakes. It's not, if we don't understand our numbers in our business, it's like flying a plane without understanding the dials in the cockpit. Now, none of us would get on a plane if a pilot didn't understand the dials, yet we're flying the plane of our business every day doing that.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Oh my, I love that analogy. I'm like, it's like flying the plane while you're building it kind of thing.
Yeah. And you're trying to build this thing.
Piecing it together.
It's not working. Right. So that's a big issue.
That is. Yeah. That's a great one. Okay. So what's number 3?
Number 3, now, for a lot of the trades, we might not have project management, although some of the trades will be doing large projects for, you know, even custom builders. If they're doing large projects, then hopefully they have at least a site super or a project manager of some kind. But number 3 is not capturing a project management fee in our expenses of our COGS, so our cost of goods. So basically, we're putting any project management site supervision into our overhead expense, and therefore we don't see it as a cost to the project. Therefore, we don't price it in to the project as a cost, and therefore we have left a pile of money on the table, project after project after project.
Wow. Absolutely. And it's interesting too, because we actually have some of our clients talk about that being one of their, you know, having the on-site superintendent is something that they're really proud of, and they use it in their sales process. So then to fail to include it in your pricing, you know, if someone's going to come lean on you because that gives them, you know, that makes them more comfortable to go with your bid over someone else's, you can certainly include the price tag for it in there too. And 100%. They shouldn't scoff at it.
Yeah. And the challenge is I think, you know, a lot of guys see that as, well, that's just a cost of me doing business. But here's the thing, if that's always a cost of doing business and it comes out of your gross profit. So when we understand how to read P&Ls, we'll understand how the flow of, you know, our sales to our minus our cost of goods equals our gross profit. Our gross profit is there to pay for our operating expenses. So if we don't have enough gross profit to pay for those things in our business, like site supervision, we can't afford to have it. Therefore, our business won't run as effectively, and we're letting clients down. And there's where we have problems. Can't get to the next level. You know, these are all the things that snowball and keep us on that hamster wheel. And so this is a big one. I mean, hey, have all three not been big ones so far, really?
Yeah, I mean, they really have, because you're right. Because I mean, I'm thinking about this project management, and like when you, if you're managing, I don't know, say you're GCing something and you've got 4 trades that you're managing, but you don't have a fee allocated to that, and you get another project coming in the door and you haven't thought about the hours allocated toward that project management, then you're bidding out this other, like, who's going to manage that project? How is that going to go? Then you're like, oh, we didn't charge enough for this because we got to, now we need another person to manage this other one because this guy's over here. Yeah, I mean, they're all big. And it's all like, what's so funny is that some of it is like, well, yeah, but then when you think about it, it's like, well, do I have that? Do I have a line item for a project management fee?
Yeah.
Like maybe, probably.
And one of the challenges is getting in our mindset that how am I going to be able to sell that and charge that if competitors aren't doing that? And, another topic we talked about was getting into, selling jobs and closing deals at higher price points, because it's critical that we're able to do that, right? So maybe on another podcast, we'll do that. But, it's critical that we're able to actually sell the value of what we bring to the table. Because if we can't sell that value, well, your lead that you got us the opportunity of getting in front of someone just kind of went out the window because of our inability to show our value. Right? Absolutely. But showing our value, we're going to undervalue what we do. And Devin, you had talked about, who project manages that one when we don't have another project manager for it. Me, the owner. Yeah. The owner goes in. The owner's always in. The owner's probably already doing it. And that's part of the reason why we're hitting the ceiling on the hamster wheel. So these things this is the stuff that frees us, right? This is the stuff that we just have to get figured out.
I feel the chains coming off already here, Randy. What's what's number 4?
Number 4. So it's confusing markup with gross profit.
Oh.
Right? So far too often we think of percentages and we're putting markups on a cost of doing a project, right? A cost of a job. And, often we're throwing a markup and we see all the time, it's usually somewhere between 20 and 30%. And then I have to go in, and during this 4 weeks that you asked for earlier, Amanda, was how do we get into that? This is one of the things that we have to get into, is peeling back that onion and really seeing where what that markup is going to do to our gross profit, and then is that gross profit enough, how we currently run our business, to generate a net profit on the bottom line. Because usually we can go in and show where we're not going to make any money on this project if you price it at that percentage markup. Now, and we think, well, why? We should. I mean, my overheads are only X. But what we fail to see is that, a 30% markup is about a 23% gross profit. So we're just missing the mark and saying, I thought my markup would be plenty enough to get me a bottom line. I mean, if I mark it up 30%, there should be lots of money there. And then we go through the exercise and we realize that, holy shit, well, maybe you're operating at 20 or 24 or 5%, and there's only 23% there. There's next to nothing left. And if we make any mistake in that project, underestimating anything, time, scope creeps, it's gone. And it's gone like that. And this is why at the end of the day, we go, holy shit, I have no money. Why is the bank not ever growing and working our ass up, but it's not taking us to the next level?
Yeah, I'm laughing because even in our business, we've had to dive in and look at this stuff, and it's true. You feel like you're just working so hard, but you said it, like, you're like, why am I not seeing the bank account grow? Like, with me as I'm working, went from 40, 50, 60 hours a week now, and we have all these, we've got all these projects in the pipeline, we've got all these projects going on, and I am just kind of working myself to the bone. And it's just the answer is right here. Yeah,
well, and those, like we say, we're on the first 4. The next one's gonna be a killer, but the first 4 alone are just holding us back from being able to build our team. right? So
Yeah.
we're constantly, this is when you mentioned, Evan, the 40 gross to 50 and 60 hours a week. And now we're doing weekends just to catch up on paperwork, and we're meeting clients, and it's like, holy shit, I can't get out of this. Why? It's right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So number 5, what is number 5?
Number 5 is understanding that we have a labor burden. So it's what is the true cost of our labor? And this one certainly affects the trades. It almost affects the trades more than builders, remodelers, because builders, remodelers use a lot of sub trades, and a lot of builders don't self-perform a lot of the work. So their labor is a lot less, right? And they're counting on the sub trades. And if the sub trades make mistakes on their labor, that doesn't affect the builder so much, but it certainly affects the trades, right? And so understanding our labor, what we refer to as a labor burden rate, the truth is we have to pay for hours when they're not on job sites and they don't have billable hours. And if we don't capture those unbillable hours in our billable rate, right, our actual true cost. And so we ask this question a lot, right? So how much do you pay one of your guys, gals in the field? And, the answer is often anywhere from as low as 20 bucks an hour to 40, 45 bucks an hour. And let's say it's 30 bucks an hour. And we say, okay, well, if it's 30 bucks an hour, what does it cost you an hour? And it's deer in headlights. It's like, well, I just told you it's 30 bucks an hour. There's the mistake, right? So that's mistake number 5. It costs you far more than that. Typically a $30 an hour person, if we include labor burden, will be about a $43 to $45 an hour cost, right? We pay for vacation time, right? If we give them a couple of weeks vacation, if we're paying any sick time at all, which, typically we're not. But if we are, we have taxes that we're paying, we don't capture tax, or, we have Monday morning meetings, or we have, they're running for coffees, or any unbillable hours, we've got to get covered. So we looking at, an average of, maybe billable 6 hours a day, but you better understand if it's 6 or 5. If it's actually 5, then we better account for that too, right? So labor burden is a big one.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Huge.
Things you don't think of. Yeah. The non-billable hours for your hourly folks.
Non-billable, workman's comp, Canada WSIB.
Yeah.
What are all of these costs that actually add up? And 43 to 45 is on the lower end. So if you go a little deeper, you could be as high as 50 bucks. It's costing us, right? So when we think we're charging 50, 55 an hour, we're making lots of money on our guy because he only costs us 30. It's just not the true case. So we have to understand labor burden to get our cost right, and then get our markup right, and make sure that we have our true markup and we don't underestimate markup to a gross profit. And it gets confusing, right? So I don't want to overcomplicate it. We have to know these things.
It makes complete sense as you stated. Is that something that is that like an easy formula, or is it different for every contractor that you talk to and that you work with? Is that easy to calculate?
Pretty easy formula. Yeah. I mean, we have a formula and spreadsheet where they can fire in every cost of every employee and tell you exactly what their labor burden is. And
that's
now
awesome. To me, I'm like, oh God, that seems like a lot of math to sit there and
really
figure
simple.
out. But really, okay, well, good.
Yeah, it's simple.
Beautiful.
It's simple.
I'm the type of person that freaks out at math, but I know how important it is. So I'm like, oh, this sounds over my pay grade.
Yeah,
I know how important it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's simple. Well, it's simple if you have the formula. And this is what we, did we not talk about before that every one of your listeners has a winning lottery ticket in their pocket? They just need the formula.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you did.
And most of us as coaches, whether, you resonate with us as a business coach or you resonate with someone else, most of us are just here to give you the formula.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Now,
I love it.
Now you better take action on the formula or none of it happens, but.
Yeah, that's true. Knowing it is one thing, but taking action is
Action
a
takers
whole
win.
different formula. Yeah.
Definitely.
Number
6.
six. Yep.
So no job review. So to me, we need job review system, right? Are we looking at, like, we estimated what we thought a project was going to cost us and what we thought we were going to, actually make on a project. And often we hear this word, well, we're going to make X dollars. Well, that you're going to produce a gross profit, but you're not going to make anything until you pay for your overheads. And this, so we have to remember back to number one, is understanding and knowing those overheads, right? Mm-hmm. What does it cost to operate my business? So looking at estimates to actuals, when a project's complete, the problem is we're usually too busy to even look backwards, right? It's only like what's in front of me today, right now, like this moment, not even in 5 hours, but what's in front of me this minute, because that's the shit I got to deal with now, right? But we have to look backwards and see what took place, because to me, if we're not looking at an estimate and figuring out how did we do, how do we know what to price tomorrow? Do we just price the same shit that we just lost money on last time and last week, and and just keep multiplying that? Or do we slow the hell down, review and evaluate, and adjust course, right?
And and even I think, I don't even know what number 7 is, but stopping to do this, say, a project is done, and learning what you just did in 1 through 5 and applying that to, a project, then you could really probably start to figure out where your losses are coming from and where you're missing the mark on your estimates. I mean, even, and I'm sure 7 is gold too, but not reviewing the job and not knowing where those holes are. Like, how can you plug the hole if you don't know where the loss is coming from?
Yeah, and I'm sure it's a very painful reality when you look back at it, but it's what you're on to you've just bid out the next one and you're ready to get started, and it's like, that is so critical. And to Devin's point, I just feel like that uncovers so much that maybe even you might be blind to when you're going through the first ones as well. Like, that's just cold hard facts. This is what we bid out. This is what we brought in. This was our burden, and this is where we ended up.
Exactly. And maybe we just figured out, maybe our burden was off and we just realized it actually needs to be this and not that. And if that's the case, let's move forward with the new burden rate and learn something and take that, right? So this is so critical to our business, but why don't we do it? Because we have so much going on that we're just got to keep going. And what the hell is the point of keeping going if it's not producing what it could be and should be? This goes back to our number one point of profit before growth. So why even do another project until we know that?
Yeah. Do you have like a trick, or like, how do you get folks to actually do this? Because I think this is one of those where you're like, I know I should do it, but it's not profitable to me, like, that you can see, right, tangentially. Right. So like, you just kind of, you're like, I'll get to, kind of like marketing. We understand this pain point because as marketers are like, we're kind of one of those first things that when you're looking at costs, like, you cut it because you can't see something immediately. You don't get the value of, branding because you can't see it. So do you have like tips or tricks, or like, at what point, like maybe when a final invoice is paid, that you kind of tell your clients, this is when you should sit down and do it? Or, I mean, how would you recommend someone squeeze this step in?
And I'll tell you how we do that is back to what Amanda asked before about this. Why do we do the first 4 weeks? Because it's exactly this. It's so we can review, evaluate what's happened, what's going on, where is the money. And the truth is, what you said, we don't know where the leaks are, right? So what we're doing in those first 4 weeks is we're finding all of the leaks. We know we do a 10-point diagnostic during the 4 weeks. We know those 10 points and areas of the business is where it all leaks, right? So we just don't know how much in each area, right? And so let's find each area, let's see what it is. And that's how we go through it. Now, if to go through it on your own, you just like without us or help, you just have to slow down. You have to realize that the next quote means nothing to you until you get this figured out. Because that next quote, they want it badly. They want it now. And they're, you're already 3 days late getting it to them, right? Well, I would say you know what? It's far more important to not get it to them and wait for the next project and do it right than to just keep going.
Yeah, than to just take
Right,
the project
when
because you want to stay busy, but you're losing money again. Like,
Yeah,
if
why
you're
stay
putting-
busy
yeah,
not making
yeah.
money?
You're putting their
Yeah,
needs before
that's
the needs
great
of your own
advice.
business. Yeah.
Like,
It really, that's great advice. Just let it go and sit down and do this.
If you have to. Now, if you feel like you're making money and the bank account's good and you don't need to worry about that, keep going. But at some point, you've got to
People get
do
on the
this,
hamster
because
wheel.
even if you're doing well and you feel like you're profitable, you can be more profitable than we know 100% you can be. I've never seen once where we can't help people be more profitable. That's just never happened, right? Because you're not looking at all of these areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it's there. So slow down. You have to slow down to speed up, and you have to know your numbers. That's the number one takeaway. If anyone's taken away anything, it's know your numbers. Know your P&Ls, know the financials, understand overheads, get a grip on what your break even is. Number 7.
Yeah.
All right. Number 7.
Number 7. And by the way, these aren't the only 7. We're just covering the top most common.
Where
Right?
your mind is going to be blown the most.
Yeah, like this is really like the big ones. But here's the big one is we're operating, many trades are operating based on false overheads, meaning they're operating a business. Could be, a guy in his truck, or maybe they have a team of 2 or 3, and they don't have overheads. And here's what they say, I often hear, I don't have any overheads. Oh, we all have overheads. We have some kind of overheads, even if they're minor and small. But maybe we don't have an administrative person that's an overhead. Well, here's the thing. If you're not pricing with an administrative person in your overheads, you will never afford to have an administrative person on your team.
Yeah.
Right? So think about that. Right? If you're not operating a business like a real business, so you're operating from this quote unquote false overhead, then we are operating in a bubble that we can't get past because we're simply not pricing our jobs accordingly to ever get them, to ever afford them. Right. So that is a big deal. I mean, I had a conversation with a guy just yesterday who said, after going through all of this, realized that, holy shit, for years, he'd been trying to keep his overhead low and not adding these costs. And in the meantime, it's cost him millions.
Yeah.
Right? Because we hit ceilings. So he was never able to grow trying to save money.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm completely unable to get out of the business if that's the way he's operating.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, hey, there is a mindset of, no, I'm going to do it myself because I don't want to pay anybody to do it. It'll cost me less. Well, that costing you less is costing you a fortune.
Yeah. It's taking you off of the much higher value tasks that you should be focused on, because you're having to worry about something that you can pay an admin
100%.
whatever an hour to do it, to take it off your plate.
And if you do pay that admin, then you would have that in your overheads. You would understand what that is, and you would know how to price your project accordingly to be able to afford that person to move forward. Now, again, you have to be able to go and sell that new price point, right? So that takes something. You've got to show up differently than you might be now to be able to charge that. But here's the thing. People will pay more for the how, right? So we talked earlier about the what and the how. Well, the what is what we do, but people pay for how it will get done, right? Client experience. They're literally willing to pay that. And if you have clients that aren't willing to pay that, you likely have the wrong client that's going to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah. They're not the right fit for you. They can go price gouge and get someone who's not going to have a superintendent on site who's going to cut the pricing corners, but that's what they get. That's what they're paying for.
That's what you're paying for. And hey, if you want to keep a small team, then you don't need to listen to what I just talked about. Just, if you want to do it yourself and run your business, I mean, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that. I think guys can make a good living doing that. You're just not going to have a whole lot of freedom. You're going to work a shitload of hours, and you're not going to, create a business that becomes a machine that can free you and make a whole lot more money. Right. And so that's really what these pricing mistakes, keep us, it keeps us on the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And so if anyone's feeling like they're on the hamster wheel, it's likely because of one, if not all, of these 7 mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. This has just been so impactful. And when you say them, you're like, yeah, but I think a lot of guys will be like, yeah, I guess I did know that, but then all together you're like, oh, I was missing that one. And that's just one of those things that completes kind of the puzzle. And I know you said there's more besides these 7, but these are the most common ones. But I think these are like massively impactful. Even if you master like these 7 and fix these 7, then maybe the next 7 are just kind of smaller. They're maybe not, gashes in the hull. They're
Right.
just, little holes you can kind of plug. Yeah, this has been so good. Randy, so if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Best way, I mean, they can always email me, Randy at the number 4 levelcoach.com. So the number 4 levelcoach.com. You can email me, or you can jump to our website, 4levelcoach.com. Again, the number 4 level coach. Check out the website. We have various, programs and things we do there. And we have different buckets for people, really, different layers. If you're under $1 million, we have what we call our farm system. And the farm system is to help guys crack the $1 million mark. And once you crack that, you get into our main track. And our main program is the next level of everything that we do to really help guys that are from $1 million to 10 get to 25 plus. And now it's kind of like a little bit mind blowing when you're at maybe 500,000, you go 25 plus is crazy. But it's extremely possible when you get the right formula and things dialed in. And it's incredible how fast it can happen exponentially when you can trust and let go and get your team doing what it needs to do with the right time and systems and people. And I
love that. I love that you have it kind of like you understand what somebody, under $1 million needs versus someone. I think that's just from different, trade shows and things like that we've been at, is the pushback I hear on business coaches is like, they didn't fit us. They were for someone at like the $10 million mark and we're only at 1.5.
Right.
So having, programs catered to specifically like where you're at in your revenue, and like knowing like, what the next step is. And another complaint we hear is the jump from level 1 to level 2 is too massive. It sounds like, you've got it kind of figured out, like what programs and processes need to be in place when you're at these very specific like revenue points. So I think that's a massive sell.
And the thing is, we know under $1 million, if you don't have these 7 things lined up, you probably can't afford much of a coaching program either, right? So we built our farm system to be, it's extremely affordable, because it's the only way for guys to get to that $1 million affordably from what I've seen out in the industry. To me, it just makes no sense. We want to help you get to $1 million plus so that we can now go to the next level with the right program, right? So it has to work for you and be extremely affordable.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you've got options. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure talking with you. We were on Randy's podcast a little bit earlier this year, and I just a lot of good knowledge being shared back and forth. So we'll have Randy's contact information and his podcast in the episode notes. So make sure to take a look, and thank you so much for listening to Trade Secrets.
Thanks for having me.
Next time.
That was today's trade secret. Thanks for listening.
Did you find this helpful? We're just getting started.
Subscribe and don't miss our next reveal.
Until next time.